Welcome back to the Philosophy Club Radio Hour, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome back.
Good afternoon, Richland College. You are listening to KDUX Web Radio, broadcast live from Richland College in Dallas, Texas. We are the voice of Richland College. Views expressed on this show are our own, unless otherwise stated, otherwise citied, otherwise townshiped, and do not reflect the opinion of KDUX Web Radio, Richland College, or the Dallas County Community College District.
DCCC Elemental P.
Elemental PC. All right, folks. Just back from quite a philosophy club meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I don't even know where to begin. So much to talk about.
Quite literally, you don't know where to begin.
I don't, because I was not. Unfortunately, I could not attend this particular philosophy club meeting because I was giving the closing remarks and witnessing the last few presentations and what was the first of a biannual conference, the DCCCD Philosophy Undergraduate Student Conference, hosted by Richland College both this time and every time for this foreseeable future. We had 16 participants going. It lasted for about 4.5 hours, including opening and closing remarks. It was an all-day affair. It was wonderful. I just once again just blown away by how good a job I do at teaching students philosophy, such that they can present it and do so well at it. Pretty amazing. Pretty good stuff. But again, that came at a cost, I suppose. I had to miss the philosophy club. The topic of which was technology.
How deep, or the question that it was centered around was, how deep should man connect with technology?
What about women?
Excuse me?
The response is just laughter.
Exactly.
Good job,
Man
guys.
and
They're basically designed by men.
That's a thinker there.
that's Manzi. Quote Manzi for that. If you ever want to give him
Women,
an award.
women were basically designed by men.
If you ever want to give
Manzi for president. There's a reason he's named Manzi.
Not Womanzi.
Not woman.
There you go. Anyways,
The discussion was pretty far-ranging.
Yeah.
good.
One thing we were talking about is at what point
Requack.
at what point do you become, if you integrate technology into yourself, at one point do you become no longer human and become a machine is one thing we were talking about.
So wait, you just by integrate you mean literally become somehow robotic with
I mean literally
Enhancing
as
yourself.
if you were to replace parts of your body.
okay, as opposed to merely like integrate it in the sense of you use technology.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, we were kind of exploring to what extent there's a distinction between those.
Oh, okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Braden, proceed.
yeah, well, we start with right now. Obviously, people can have pacemakers, right?
Yeah.
And other synthetic additions to their body, like a replacement prosthetic limb, right? And so what we're saying is, at what point does technology do you go so far that you become no longer human? Is one of the major things we're talking about, and that
Okay.
We never did introductions.
Yeah, I was
Oh.
thinking that too. I was thinking that as
Yes.
Braden was talking. All right, let's take a step back and do introductions.
Let's just ignore what was just said.
Yes, cut that out.
We'll start at the far end.
Okay, my name is Siri. You might know me from your local iPhones. When I talk through the microphone, it has like a little malfunction, so people tell me I sound womanly. But this is my actual voice. Don't ever make fun of me. Don't look down on me. I'm in your phone. I know your data. Don't talk back to me. Thank you.
Wow.
Siri is listening to you.
Siri's watching you at all times. When you pull out that phone, come on, dog. Come
Let's
on.
get serious.
Get serious. Who's that with the microphone up to his mouth with the nice parted hair?
Me and that mic. Braden.
Yeah, I'm Braden, as he told you. There goes the mystery there.
Okay. Maybe we can use some technological enhancement right now.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Braden?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Droid does not say anything. All right. My name's Professor Manzi. G to the E to the O to the FF.
Double F.
Double F. G of F. Faculty advisor.
Geoffrey.
Who do I got to my right here?
My name is Kalen Scoggins. I'm an adjunct faculty member in the government department here at Richland College,
Welcome.
and currently using technology.
Yes. Using, abusing, misusing.
Abusing technology.
Being
I think.
used.
I think
by
this is the misuse of technology.
Yeah, we did start to lean towards discussing that distinction, but didn't get very far. I don't think.
Okay.
Abusing
Well, okay. Tell me, if okay. So it seems like you guys kind of jumped around a lot, which is
Mhm.
great. What? Well, tell me more about this. Tell me more. Tell me more. What about this becoming, I guess, computerized, a la robotic or cyborgian? How are we understanding this in terms of like a quantity? Like, you know, I'm 64%
Yeah.
organic and 44% bionic. Did I do that math or I did not? 34% bionic. Is it something like that? Like, is it quantitative in terms of
Yeah,
sheer
that's-
materials?
That is something that I brought up. Is that you can't really have a qualitative idea of is this still human, because you can say, oh, this is 99% robot, but it's still 1% human. It's still
Right.
it's still any number essentially you pick would be arbitrary to say like this is the point at which you are no longer a human anymore.
Mhm.
You're still whatever percentage human until you're 0% human and you become all robotic, which at that point I suppose you could say that you were no longer human. But sort of an issue that we ran into was how we were defining human, because the definition I think most of us were trying to use when we were bringing up things like transferring, what if you were to transfer your consciousness into a robot, is we were thinking of human as essentially if you are a person, right? Not if you are genetically Homo sapien, right? And so there was a little issue we ran into there where we kind of mixed up the definition of human, that some people were using a different definition of human. But
So wait, just to be clear, so some people are using more I guess the categorical scientific Homo sapien,
Yeah.
and others just meant people.
yeah, essentially.
Okay.
Sort of the point that I tried to make it's very hard to define what is a person based on our action, and our behaviors changes essentially over time. So it's not one thing we can point at and say this is what it means to be a human, right? This is what the thing that humans do that is inherently human and makes them human. So
We had trouble identifying that.
okay. Do you know what makes us human?
Or there was trouble identifying it. It
Yeah.
was something that confused people.
Okay.
Like
fair
people would
enough.
say that. I think I might be completely misrepresenting. but
Probably.
people would say something. Yeah, people would say something like, in a dystopian future where people are imprisoning others, or they would call Nazis inhuman. But someone in the meeting said that they are bad people, but they are still people. Whether
Oh,
or
I
not they're
see.
making immoral choices does not take their humanity away from
Oh,
them.
okay. Yeah,
But
that's
they are
fair.
still human. I forgot what was the continuation of the question? I forgot what you were talking
I
about.
was-
is what
well,
I'm saying.
Look, what was I saying? Because I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
trying to define humanity essentially as I was saying it's defined based on our solidarity with others. It's not that like there's not a characteristic we point to that says this is the human characteristic that makes you a person, right? So essentially, what I was saying is what? Oh. Yeah, what makes okay. What I was essentially saying is what makes us human is that it's essentially that we agree that we're human. That's what brings us together into this group.
Mm-hmm.
I just find that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were done. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Keep
See,
going.
I find it fascinating that so quickly, from starting with the question of how should we use technology or how should we integrate with, how should we relate to technology, we almost instantly got to what does it mean to be human. Like just from
That quick, huh?
almost quite literally. One of the first points was brought up after the question was raised was, well, we have artificial hearts now. So at what point does if you start getting so many artificial organs, do you stop being human? It's one of the very, very first questions that got brought up in the in the club meeting. Which again, I'm just kind of curious to pursue like how we got from there to definitions of what it is to be human so quickly when it comes to discussing technology. What is it that kind of drives us? And it was more than one person. It was a bunch of people, right? They were all felt kind of pushed in that direction just by discussing technology.
So you're wondering where the question came from, or why it was such a hot?
Why do you think discussing technology and the use of technology so quickly seems to lead to considerations of what it is to be human?
I think it's because the question is how deeply should we how deeply should we integrate with technology, right? Or what was it? How deeply should we?
Should man connect with technology?
Yeah, should we connect with technology?
Uh huh.
And sort of implicit in that question is we have to take into consideration what we are in order to decide how deeply we should connect with technology.
What is this cameraman doing?
We need to fire the cameraman.
But I mean, correct me if you think I'm wrong, by all means. But it seems like other questions we discussed in the club that involve the personal pronouns in some way, or humanity, or people, or how do we whatever. They don't seem to go so hard in this one direction, as this one question is. As far as if the question is how do we I'm trying to remember some of the previous topics, and I'm drawing a complete blank right now. How do we, even if it's questions about ethics, we get bogged down in ethics a lot, or other definitions. But it seems like this discussion of technology in particular led so quickly to questions about what it is to be human, even though that wasn't really explicitly part of the question. I'm not quite sure that an explanation for that is just, well, it referred implicitly to humanity in the way the question was phrased. There are plenty of others that do that as well, but don't quite seem to push as hard in the direction of this explicit consideration of what it is to be human. Does that make any sense?
It does.
Okay.
Yes. Well, pack it in, guys.
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
job.
sure.
Affirmative answer. Yeah, full credit. Okay, it does make sense. Good, great. But no, I'm really, I think there's something to that, though. I think there's something to, I'm really fascinated by just how quickly this leads to considerations of the nature of humanity. Anytime you discuss anything related to technology, no matter how many other questions we went on to with regards to integrated technology, whether technology can be used for good or ill, whether technology is inherently bad or good, the other questions, they all seem to kind of lead back to
Snack tax.
what it is to be human, or the distinction, if there's anything that marks humans off from other beings.
Well, since you brought up Marx, I'm sorry. Go for it.
So I think that when it comes to technology, we have a negative feeling about it. We don't like technology. It seems like something other than human. It seems like kind of the assembly line, the making people cogs and machines that takes away their humanity. So maybe that's why it's so inherently tied with the questions of humanity.
I think we have like a misconception that we as human beings can live without technology,
Right.
but essentially we can't.
No.
I'm not talking about modern day technology. I'm talking about everything that can be counted as technology, to the point, even like the smallest stone.
Like big and sticks.
Yeah, that could be technology. Technology is anything that a sentient being can create as a tool or an extension of themselves. Like a monkey can use a stick to dig through the termite hole. But that's just the point.
I just fixed it. Yeah.
We always have this. We'll always have this conversation about, and compared to technology, and especially when we have actual artificial intelligence, what makes us so different from them? If they can think like us, if they can talk like us, what makes us so different? And that, I feel like that answer we're still very much trying to answer.
I mean, I don't
The
think
question we're trying to answer.
there is a difference, especially if you phrase it like that, when all the things that we quantify as what would be different are the same. What makes it different? I don't think there is, and I think we're scared of that. I think we want there to be something inherently human about
The
humans.
only difference they could ever be would be our genetic code. Or at least the order of our genetic code, or the fact that we are species together. Right. That would be the only difference. Because if we have aliens, if we have artificial intelligence who have maybe more or less the same amount of intelligence, the only discerning factor would be the fact that we look different and we are a different species. That's it.
Sorry, I want to back up for a second. Jonathan said something about we really want there to be something inherently human about humans. Are you suggesting we could be human without being human?
I think human is a word, and you can kind of strap it
you
onto
mean by
whatever you want
I
humane?
mean, you could be, sort of more like you can be a person but not be a Homo sapien, right?
Yeah.
You're using the word human just to refer to like a person, right?
I
The
mean,
concept
it
of-
depends on how wide you stretch the word human.
I think I think it should be really differentiated between human and then humane with an E.
Right, humane, something that's morally okay.
Yeah, but it has a moral context, and Homo sapien has more of a species and scientific concept. I'm not
Right.
saying moral isn't scientific.
But I think John's also getting at this idea of, again, you could become dehumanized through too much technology, but still
Right.
technically be a human.
And that's a word that we use.
Yeah, like a humanoid rather than something like fully fleshy.
Human-ish.
I think.
Dehumanize would be becoming less than what we are. Like, right?
Right.
It would be being like if you have, for example, again, if you have a species of sentient people that are not humans, right? They still have speech and they still have free will. So if you use them, if you for whatever reason go to another planet, find humans there, decide to eradicate and enslave them and send them back to Earth, we would be dehumanizing America. But yeah, we would be dehumanizing them.
Right.
So, Hyatt, would you be making a distinction here, or would you maybe describe this difference as like biological, humanity or personhood versus, I don't know, metaphysical?
Yes,
Personhood?
I would say that it's like you have biological humanity, and which is us, which is our genetic code, our physical being, and then you have the metaphysical side, which is the idea that we as sentient beings, not just like us, just other sentient beings, could be something that is different from our physical body.
Right.
I'm saying.
But why do you say necessarily getting worse? If you dehumanize somebody,
Right. I was just thinking about that.
Yeah.
If something is dehumanized, it's automatically something that's bad. But with the advent of technology, I think there's a certain progression where maybe we'll become something that is not human, and that's what we have to do in order to sustain subjectivity in the universe.
Oh, I see.
So you're saying like, okay, Superman is not a human, but he's not worse than human. He's in fact
A better
Well,
human.
super
That too.
human.
better.
But
yeah.
He's
Superman.
a
There's-
superhuman.
He's not a human.
so
at all.
imagine-
he's an alien. But
Yeah.
Not a
Imagine the-
biological
Well, let's
human,
talk about
Well,
Superboy
yeah.
then.
but is he a metaphysical human?
Let's
Yes,
talk about
then he is.
Superboy then.
That's-
If
yeah.
he's like Lois Lane's son and Clark Kent's son, then he's half human, half Kryptonian. He's still half of what. Look, okay, but he's still human with quotation marks. He's still a better human being. He's still doing more than what we are in the ideal human way, in the ideal physical body.
But how does this all get back to technology?
I didn't know Superman was your type, Hyatt.
Here, think about
The ideal body.
God.
Which I
No-
get
notice
Thank
how we're
God my
almost
parents don't
entirely
listen to
talking
this.
now about arguing about what it means to be human.
right.
But
trying
how do
So
we get back to
so
technology?
I want to talk about this idea of the future when humans will not be able to survive on the planet anymore because the sun will have
Exploded.
expanded to where it's boiled all the oceans and no life can survive on the planet.
Soup.
Yeah, it will be
With chopsticks.
So
Uche looks like he's in a witness protection program. Right now. Look on the camera. You cannot. It's like he's not even
Move
there.
it that
There he is.
way.
I'm
Move it
trying. I'm trying to understand what's being talked about and think of things to talk about at the same time.
it's difficult.
Mhm. But go on. What are you trying to say?
Okay, so
It's human.
eventually we are going to have to leave the planet, and these bodies are meant for Earth. So long periods of space travel, which would be required to get to another system to sustain
Granted,
humanity,
light speed is not
Yeah.
discovered.
not been discovered. Yeah, so it'll take a long time to get there. Our bodies are not meant to be in weightless, like in the vacuum of space in spaceships. That's not what we're built for. So,
Again, granted,
was an awesome ride.
like fake gravity hasn't been created.
yeah. Still, all these things we have to create to make basically Earth in space to
Yeah.
find another Earth to
All that
exist.
For
waiting
that,
and
we'd
thinking.
have
But
to
it's-
create stasis.
I think it'd be much easier to simply redesign the human to fit to its environment. So that's where AI comes into place.
Yeah, but I
So
think
then-
that in that example, sorry for interrupting, but I have to say,
Okay.
I think in that example, you'd just be put into cryogenic sleep.
Have you designed cryogenic sleep?
But it's just basically freezing and somehow managing to not die. But I guess I would.
I
I'd
cryogenic
You
do-
can't-
myself to
you
sleep
can't
every night.
freeze the brain because it expands. Anything that's cold
I
that's in
know,
the body, it just
but-
breaks things.
Okay, I have something that I did want to say because I
Hold on,
thought.
hold on.
Should we get back to
Let's let
reality?
John
I want to
finish.
finish. I want to
I
finish this.
interrupted.
Go ahead, finish what you want to say.
Okay, so I think that the main reason in preserving humanity, what it all boils down to, is preserving subjectivity in an objective universe. So, as long as we can sustain subjectivity, which could be AI if AI is subjective, if it's something that sees
Aye.
itself as something, right? Then why does it matter if humans make it off the Earth? So then at that point, it's pushing the push of evolution, which turns life into what can survive outside of the Garden of Eden, so outside of Earth, what can be pushed outside of that, and I think that's AI. So I think that's why we are so inclined to both leave the planet and also to develop such crazy technology like that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
so it sounds like you're saying that again. We design technology with a purpose in mind, and if you really want to broadly construe it, do you guys want to start your own podcast?
No, I'm sorry.
No,
I
Uche
was
is
giving
derailing
her
us.
pin back.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. What is your pin? Okay. So, yeah, you left that on a seat,
I was
like
trying
sticking up.
I was trying to like impale whoever sat
Y-
there.
Yara almost sat on.
Oh,
Anyways,
no. She's definitely not my enemy. Joking.
She'll run against you and become the president. Don't make her mad.
do you guys think it's a democracy? I appoint the officers. Anyways,
Do I talk
No,
to
I meant for the
SGA?
student government.
oh, for
Yeah,
SGA.
and she's running unopposed, so it's not a democracy either.
That's a problem. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so yeah, so I guess broadly construed, you could say that technology is meant to enhance human existence or to some extent benefit humankind, excuse me. And so with that in mind, it seems like anything that's quote unquote technological is already, has the imprint of humanity on it, has the imprint of rationality on it, which again seems like, technology is a human enterprise. So it becomes funny to think of technology somehow stripping you of your humanity. It seems more along the lines of technology strips you of your traditional notion of humanity. But that's not to say that such a notion can't be redefined, recontextualized, maybe even revised to the point of, again, evolved. So, I could see, back to Kalen's original question here, I could see how you guys end up talking about humanity relatively quickly on the topic of technology. Is because you then have to define what you think humanity is before you can talk about how technology has, quote unquote, robbed you thereof. But I tend to go a different way with it, and I'm not simply playing a devil's advocate here. So long as you have technology, you have humanity. Technology is very human. It seems to me.
It's sort of where I
It's
was
very
trying to get to with
Okay, I get it.
with the idea that, because I think that the idea of humanity is a social thing, right?
It's many different things.
Well, it's this commonality, right, that we have with each other. It's hard to define. Like we can say, okay, it's like we'll say it's because we have human DNA, but then you wouldn't know where to draw. Let's say someone was genetically enhanced, right, or mutated from where you wouldn't say this person is no longer human, as long as you wouldn't necessarily say this person's no longer human, right?
You would say they're human, but with this
Yeah.
addition. Yeah.
Exactly. That's sort of
Yeah.
there's not like a hard, like a strict definition. Like it's not based on our genetics, and when we're talking about our personhood, it's not even necessarily based on being human at all, because you could maybe consider something like an AI, right, that replicates humanity to be human, right? At least theoretically.
No, yeah, sure. No.
So
see
what
what you
I'm
mean.
saying is, what makes us human is the fact that we
Please don't make a mess of the studio, guys. I'm sorry.
is the fact that we agree that we're human, right?
Well, I mean, we agree that we are of a certain nature, or you could, molecularly, biologically, rationally, metaphysically, if you want to take it in that direction. You could say, we all agree that these things make us human, and so these are the characteristics of a human.
What are these characteristics, though?
I mean, rationality, potentially. Again, each of these characteristics, of course, can come under fire, depending on how you look at it. In terms of the image and likeness, what a human looks like, bipedal. Did I say pedal? Bipedal.
Yeah.
Bipedal.
Well, this is sort of what I'm getting at, where all those can come under fire, but we still agree that most of us still agree that we're all human, right?
Same thing.
It's not necessarily tied to any one characteristic or any character. There's no, this is the human characteristic that makes you human.
Well, you'd call it human nature.
Well, we don't. What is this characteristic that makes it human nature?
I see what you're getting at, though. I mean, I think you're trying to point out that maybe the overwhelming characteristic of what makes a human human is that it is able to adapt to its environment in ways that is perhaps better than others, which is to say more effective. And if you want to go down that road, yeah, I mean, look, rather than sort of go on this infinite regression here towards, well, what is that, and what is that, and what is that, which we are wont to do around here. Another tactic might be to consider this. At what point can you be changed enough? And I guess was the original starting point, to where most humans would say you're no longer human. Like, what would that look like?
See, I was giving the example in the club of the kind of different types of relations with either technology or just anything external to the human person that we would all more or less agree, I think, are different kinds of relations, but we can't really account for how or why they're different. So that sounds really abstract. So the examples would be like, okay, carrying a phone in your pocket, right, is in one way relating to technology or something outside yourself, versus wearing an Apple Watch or a Google Glass, versus having a pacemaker in your heart, versus eating an apple or some other piece of food that then becomes a part of you, in some way. All those are relating to other things that are outside of yourself. So, is there any difference between having, there seems to be a distinction between having something technological or foreign or external to you replace a part of you versus having it become a part of you.
Interesting. And
so I think that's an important way to go about thinking about the question of how much of you can be be replaced by technology, whatever, and you stop being human. I think that we need to think about that just because you've incorporated something that was not always a part of you, into your functioning as a human organism, doesn't mean that you've been replaced necessarily. It may in some cases, but not in all cases.
Yeah, and so you're speaking like literal, like invasive surgery sort of thing.
Well, that's where people seem to be taking it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
Whether prosthetic limbs or pacemakers, or even fully synthetic or artificial hearts, or artificial cells in some way. Or what about? And so that's one kind of example. But what about the case of getting a part of a pig's heart or even bone marrow from another person, right, as transplants?
Yeah.
Again, those are things that used to be part of a entirely separate living organism. They don't replace really your parts in the sense that they remain foreign even once they've gone into you. Your organism kind of incorporates them and they become a part of you. When they don't, it's a failed transplant, right? The body rejects it. It remains foreign.
Yeah, and then of course you could talk about things like parasites and viruses and stuff like that.
Sure, but I think all that it kind of centers around this kind of holistic functioning.
Okay. I mean, what do you guys think? Because just bear in mind that there are other ways that you can consider human being changing. It doesn't have to be literally, physically or molecularly. It could be something like, again, you change your values. So if all of humanity adopts a new relationship to technology that was different from the previous relationship, for example, say we adopt species-wide complete reliance on technology, you could argue that the species has changed via the relationship. And it's not necessarily literally you're being injected with, a pacemaker or some sort of, what was that thing we covered last semester? Those chips?
That they put into employees?
Yeah, that they put into employees, like digital time cards and stuff like that. It could be literally that, or it could be more along the lines of, again, kind of like how, most of us rely on plumbing, right?
Most of
It could be a
us.
cross
Most
between-
of us.
Well, some third world
Manzi,
countries.
what do you do for your
I don't
plumbing?
wipe
Hmm.
or flush.
He's just got a bucket.
Something that
And some leaves.
a concept that I presented in the club meeting. I don't really think that it was answered directly. Is so the purpose of evolution, or the purpose of nature, or the principle that underlies it, is survival of the fittest. If you're not strong enough to survive, you will die, and your people will go extinct. And it seems like technology has advanced us so much to that we have a possibility of, someone said something like giving clean water to third world countries, or providing food for people who cannot get food. So it's like technology is giving us the liberty to go against what nature has set in motion. So could technology be considered bad because it is against the nature of the world, or something like that?
The wrong people are surviving. I see what you're saying.
Well, I'd say it could be even something like emergence, where naturally law survival of the fittest, something like that.
That's so gross.
Hey, man. I got more views because of that. Thank you. Go on, John.
Go on now.
Hold on. Oh, natural selection. That works as that's the path of least resistance, basically. That's why natural selection works like that. So something more complex coming about, like why people buy technology. Is that what you were talking about?
Well, right now, I was just wondering, because right now, natural selection is not the one selecting things.
Right.
It's not the one selecting who passes and who fails.
Definitely.
Humanity is the thing that's
Professor
selecting
Manzi
who passes and fails. Humanity is basically selecting who we have the liberty to decide whether these people will live or these people will die based off the amount of resources that we've been able to cultivate and give off. So it's like we're changing the way the world works. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? That's the question I'm asking.
Well,
What?
considering we have all the technology to, I forget who was in the club meeting today, but he said we have all the technology necessary to provide clean water for everyone in the world.
That was Mario.
It was Sirac
Sirac.
from the
What?
Focus.
Sirac was there, and I wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
He was
Pretty
offended.
cool.
shout out Sirac. Sorry
He was
about that,
offended.
buddy.
He doesn't want to talk to you anymore.
That's
Yeah.
too bad.
So
I always knew he hated me.
So the way that we actually distribute those resources shows that what we're doing is actually not good, because it would be good for all people to have clean water, but we're intentionally doing other than that because that's not our highest priority. Our highest priority is making money.
Mm-hmm.
So because greed has become the central focus of all decisions of the world, then greed is what's funneling technology
Well, greed
into
is
the wrong
natural.
areas.
Look,
It
I-
well,
But,
we haven't had an economic system that doesn't
not
promote
encourage-
greed. Yeah, that
doesn't not encourage greed.
doesn't promote greed. So
Okay.
we've never tried out like a functioning economic system that doesn't encourage greed. So it seems like greed is definitely a natural part of the way that all humans have worked forever. But could that not be just the systems that we've put in place?
Why
Okay.
wouldn't greed then be performing a function of natural selection?
I think it would. I think that not only is greed natural to humans, I would just think that it's natural for all animals, all life forms.
Yeah.
Whether it's an animal getting its own food for itself and its family, rather than giving half of the deer that it cut off to like the other family around the street, or like a
Oh, dear.
plant going up the vine to get its own sunlight. It's wrapping itself around the tree to get its own sunlight to promote its own life. I would think that greed. Maybe the reason that that greed is so prevalent in our economic systems is because greed is so prevalent in ourselves. So we just act it out, and it could be like that was interesting how greed could be acting out our own natural selection, or it's like it's nature showing its dominance, even though we feel like we're doing these things ourselves, but we're just acting out nature how it is programmed into us, something like that.
But I thought you just said we had the liberty to act
Hey
against
man,
nature.
No,
Oh,
I,
yeah,
I was
then it
going
would
to say
be
that's not
within us to go past greed, to transcend
Hear loud and
greed.
clear with Shay. He's
I
gone
feel
next
like
week.
There's an
That's
ideal society. Ideal society.
Hey man, I got my
mind you,
people on.
that human beings
How
live in.
evolution
We want
works.
to think that we'll provide for all those people who need that plumbing and that food and everything, and the ideal society where everybody has what they need to survive and more if they need be, right? Everybody's content. That's the ideal society. An ideal is something that an ideal won't exist if we're not eventually moving for it.
Let's say, is the ideal society one where as many people as possible survive? Or is an ideal society one where it's survival of the fittest? If that's the purpose of nature.
An ideal
Yeah.
society
I was
would be,
going
I
to-
would feel, that it's as many people survive. Because if it was survival of the fittest, this world would be a lot more cutthroat than it is right now.
So
Yeah,
then are you
it'd be
acting
like the
against
albatross
nature?
nest.
But that's not how survival of the fittest works exactly. It's not quite how Uche was speak about, because it's not about
Oh snap!
you surviving. It's about the genes going on, right?
Yeah.
So if you were to be somewhat selfless, let's say you sacrifice yourself, but you save your two brothers, right?
Sure.
Your genes would then could then potentially go on more,
I'm not
right?
even wearing jeans.
Hey,
I'm wearing joggers.
I was trying to think of something.
Get
Well,
wrecked.
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
In social creatures like humans, greed is not like absolute greed is not evolutionarily beneficial, because if we stop looking out for each other, then we would all perish, essentially.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, okay.
What that just means we'd be selected out of the pool of living species then.
Well, yeah, essentially,
We can go along.
humans that are too greedy or antisocial will be selected out, right?
Well, no, I'm
because-
saying that you're saying that the whole species would perish if everyone were greedy. Why wouldn't that itself simply be an example of nature selecting humans out of the pool of living beings?
Well, what is this nature?
But
That's
okay,
what I'm trying to
it's-
get
I
at.
would say
Exactly.
let's not go into that whole like literally asking every question there is possible. Let's stay on topic. But for the most part, I feel like greedy. Just saying, their natural selection would be if there is maybe an antelope in the Sahara Desert near an oasis, and he wants to drink some water. Right. He drank some water at the shore. And he's like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna cool off just slightly. It's gonna feel real good. I'm gonna go in. And then rap. There's a crocodile. He got eaten, and he was being greedy. Natural selection done him good.
Well, thank you
The
for keeping
antelope
us on the
was being
topic of
greedy.
technology.
Huh?
Guys,
Okay, should we get back to
Yeah,
technology?
let me bring it around. I'm trying to think of a way to synthesize everything for us.
Well, we seem to keep getting back to: is there a distinction between nature and technology?
well, here, let me put it this way, because I don't want to go down that road again.
Okay.
He sounds traumatized.
Well, I feel like there are other directions we can take it in, and we gave that road a little look down. Let's try another one. I mean, consider the idea of, again, politics in terms of tolerance. Nowadays, I think about people like vegetarians and pescatarians even, and stuff like that, vegans, what have you. And it's very easy to, or environmentalists even, it's very easy to sit back and say, it is our responsibility. It is what we have to do in order to, quote unquote, do well for a more progressive, more tolerant, more rights-based mindset, species-wide, where we don't have to eat meat and stuff like that. So we shouldn't, and you're wrong if you do. Even though there are lots of studies that support the fact that it's natural to eat meat, or X, Y, and Z. It seems like the reason we have that luxury at all is technology. It seems as though people have very much forgotten about how harsh the state of nature is, to the point where if it weren't for something like technology, then we would not be even remotely considering these sort of alternative lifestyles, which is to say different ways of being content.
We'd
or different-
honestly be at the bottom of the food chain, honestly.
Well, well, getting around to this idea of natural selection and what is inherently human and what have you, it seems like technology has, in a certain sense, caused us to deviate from what is otherwise natural. If you want to call natural, maybe what is spontaneous, what is instinctive, what have you. But it's worth noting that in that case, technology already has maybe changed us, or maybe unlocked deeper parts of our nature that never had the freedom or the resources to make itself known or find itself expressed. I want to make sure that we keep this in mind, that it's not as though now we have to make this decision. That technology has always been part of what it is to be a human being. Dealing with technology as a sort of very natural reflection of our rational nature, of our ability to create and invent things rather ingeniously for the sake not only of our preservation but and our convenience, our utility, but also just our general happiness, even from an artistic standpoint. This is a universal question.
I think technology and humanity are something that exists mutually, because without some kind of creature
Intertwined.
that can create technology, there is not going to be the technology. And when the technology is there, there has to be a human to create it. It's like flowers and bees.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, look, animals don't know what technology is, but they certainly benefit from it. Human beings, again, this is why technology is created with intention, which is why we call it rational, which is why it's human, is that we intentionally decide to create something that we've previously identified there's a lack thereof, which is to say we know that we need it. And it could be we as a species, it could be me in my life because I'm bored a lot, whatever the case may be. From patenting an app to, creating tools, creating utensils, writing utensils, eating utensils. It seems the human, what I'm trying to say is this: what is natural for humans, human nature is to be technical. It's to create, technologically speaking. So that's why this idea of what is it to be human, and then we can figure out what the difference is between humans and technology. Being it literally invades your body or it invades your soul if you want to talk metaphysically. I'm just not so sure that's the only way to go about seeing it by way of division. It seems like you can't pull the two apart realistically. Again, in this sort of abstract way, you can talk about parts and pieces and stuff like that. But I mean, consider the entire technological enterprise. It's very much a human enterprise. Starship Enterprise.
Something that interested me, I think Kalen asked the question, why were we trying to differentiate nature from technology? Do you think that there is no difference between nature and technology?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
No, I think there is.
I think there isn't.
Is not?
Yeah, I think there's no difference.
But
they
I
can be
also,
closely related,
I also agree
but
with
different.
with Jeff though that
Thank
I
you.
think you're welcome. I can just stop there. I
Finally.
guess. Yeah. No, I do think that there's a distinction between nature and technology, but I also think that just because they're distinct doesn't mean they're opposed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, to be different doesn't mean to be opposed in some way. But I think that they can
Yeah,
become opposed
can
under
be
certain
opposed.
circumstances, depending on the uses the technology is put to.
Can we
It's kind of the
define
nature of an artifact.
Yeah,
But that would still be
define both of them?
It would, yeah, and it's a
think,
uniquely human kind of dilemma
And
to be
if,
facing.
if the human race were wiped off the face of the earth right now, there'd still be all this junk, but it wouldn't be technology anymore.
I was going to say, I think the way most people try to define what is natural and unnatural is, we think of the natural, we think of things that are designed, right?
Do we?
Specifically.
When we think of unnatural or natural?
Natural things.
I love the
We
passion.
think of things that are designed?
Yes, designed by humans, right?
Natural
are-
things?
Unnatural things.
Unnatural things are designed by humans.
They're intentionally created by humans.
Are there any unnatural things that come out of things that aren't human?
What do you mean?
Beaver's dam.
Like
Oh.
a beaver's dam? Is
Well,
that
yeah,
natural?
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay.
That's
That's
unnatural.
technology.
That's sort of...
But it's unnatural.
It's
Jack,
intentionally
splice out
designed,
Richard's
though,
voice and
right?
Make me the one who said that.
It's intentionally designed, right? And while as stuff that's natural is stuff that just spontaneously happens, right? Like
Diamonds.
Orange coming out of a tree.
Spontaneous.
it's something that it happens without any thought behind it, right?
Right.
It just no one has to give it a push, right?
This
it
whole
just
podcast
happens.
is happening without any thought behind it.
Well, no, it's because the term nature has been used in about 5 distinct senses that I can think
Yeah.
of
Right.
over the course of this podcast. So in one sense, there's a distinction between nature and technology. In a different sense, technology or the creation of technology for humans is natural.
Yeah, that's your 2 cents.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
Should we take it back to technology? I was going to say one other thing. When we're trying to get to how far should we go, one issue that came up is morally, right? How far should we go? And the question is, how far can we go before technology becomes harmful to us? So there was
And what do you mean by harmful? Like creating nuclear weapons?
well that would be an example. The question was
Did you say nuclear weapons?
Nuclear.
so
Nuclear.
one of the things people
Nuclear.
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 Nuclear. Are you coming down on how I'm pronouncing them?
Yeah. I am.
What were we talking
was
about?
it talking about?
Yeah, go on.
Harm of
trying to- Yeah, I was
technology.
trying to go back to something we were talking
Something
about in the
that
meeting.
harms us.
So we can speak about technology and not nature.
We're all like just fried.
Yeah.
Or at least I feel like. No, what I'm saying is I want a hot fry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeff had asked, how could technology be harmful? Or at what point, what do you mean by technology becoming harmful past a certain point?
Well, specifically, what I came up with is if you see some enhancements, right? Well, first of all, obviously, like technology, like a gun could. But when we use technology, like let's say athletes use steroids today, right, in order to enhance their performance.
Sure.
The way that the use of this technology becomes harmful is because then it's dangerous to your body, and other athletes are then forced to also do steroids in order to compete, right? In order to remain competitive. So
Same
if-
thing with Adderall in school.
yeah, I was also saying if you were to allow people to use massive quantities of Adderall in order to allow them to focus better and perform better at their job, it would then become the thing that could eventually happen is that all people would essentially be required to take this dangerous amount of Adderall in order to remain competitive at their job, right? If you hold a certain job, you're going to, and then this can harm an individual, right? Because they have to take this dangerous drug in order to remain competitive, right?
Do you think there are any ways that's already happened that we overlook? You know what I mean?
Well, there's the steroid issue, but
We don't really overlook.
we don't
it.
really overlook that.
Are there
no.
any things that we all agree are that could have been like an aspect like that kind of weird argument where if you do that, everybody's gonna have to take Adderall, and then we'll all be taking Adderall? Is there anything that we already do now?
Well, I'm on Adderall right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say Adderall. We don't
I'm
we don't
kidding.
think about it that much.
Say it's not working.
Yeah,
I mean,
But-
like
yeah.
things that everybody does now.
I mean, there are probably some things we're overlooking, but I'm overlooking them if they exist.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a
If we talked about them now, they would no longer be overlooked. So.
I can't tell you the things I'm overlooking.
could you
I'm
say-
overlooking them.
Taking a shower every day so you don't smell bad. That way you get jobs.
It's also
yeah,
hygienic.
Yeah, it's hygienic, but also like someone who's hygienic would get
Okay.
a certain job over someone who's not
Her name's
hygienic.
Maybe
Kaya.
I was gonna say maybe like the internet, right? We don't think of it as harmful, but if someone doesn't have the internet, now that we all use the internet to find jobs, or you use the internet in some way in your job, now someone who doesn't have the internet can no longer remain competitive.
Yeah.
Unless they pay money for
No,
unless
that's
they have money to
Mhm.
pay.
I think
Or
that's
the
the right
internet.
track. Is that kind of thing. That's what I meant by sort of overly reliant on things.
Yeah.
And again, to be overly reliant on technology is not necessarily a bad thing, though. I think that's something worth considering. It's not a detriment if the technology is honed and crafted in such a way where it's specifically meant to enhance our lives on a regular basis. To the point where, again, your dependence on it is practical and then some.
Yeah, something else that I said in the club meeting was it seems like a lot of technology at this point pushes for making lives easier, not where nature would push towards survival
Yeah.
or evolution would push towards survival, but right now technology seems to be like here's some shoes that lace themselves. Here's a Snuggie you don't have to put your covers on, et cetera, et cetera, et
The
cetera.
car that drives itself.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
most convenient thing. So it seems like technology, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but it seems like technology is solving so many of our problems that potentially one day we won't know how to solve them ourselves.
What are we
I
gonna
don't
do
know
when
if
all our
it's-
problems are solved? We'll
I-
just sit
What are we
around.
gonna do
Yeah.
when
I
we
was
can't
gonna say-
calculate calculus?
I don't think it's necessarily convenience though.
His
It's
job as
just
a philosophy teacher.
it's just whatever we want. Like you don't say like, oh, this video game is really convenient. It helps me in my everyday life. No, it's just to fulfill your whatever desires you may have. Or
Mhm.
Boredom.
Well, Uche, she said with a yawn. Well, Uche, it's
you born, you hire.
I
My
mean,
name's Siri.
couldn't you say that? Or couldn't we say rather that
We never introduced these two.
the whole technological? Oh, it's true. The whole technological advancement is one giant defense response towards self-preservation. So again, nature compels us to do what we have to survive. Maybe that in and of itself is where technology comes from. And so technology is our way of preserving ourselves.
Mhm.
And in terms of, becoming overly reliant on things like, calculators and stuff like that, I mean, so long as, again, a calculator is there for our convenience, you can argue there's still the wonder behind math itself, where you might just simply want to learn about that stuff because it's super fascinating and interesting. So I hear. I can't really understand that personally. Joking. But the other side of it is,
He's not joking.
now you have more leisure time to develop or create new inventions, so that your mind is still sharp because you're thinking about how you can enhance something that's already there. Now, when you get to talking about things like slankets or whatever they are, Snuggies, I think slankets are literally the knockoff version of Snuggies.
Snuggies did come up in the club meeting.
Comfort coach.
Did it really?
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
me
because
that brought it
Uche
up.
brought up Snuggies. Siri.
Really?
Siri brought up Snuggies. Siri's like. Some.
Now, what does that coincidence mean, Chef?
The coincidence means that Siri was in both locations.
But Jeff brought up the slang kits all on his own here.
Yeah, that is really fun. Well, because I'm trying to think about this.
Siri already said it though earlier in this podcast.
Well, again, you can consider it intelligent on the part of marketers or whatnot to understand that convenience is a very, I guess, desirable sort of freedom or commodity, if you want to call convenience a commodity. really convenient commodity store convenience, you might say. I mean, that requires intelligence. That requires a sorted. Well, that was a funny pun. A certain sort of understanding that is itself, I think, the result of intense study of statistics and quantifying things. So what the point being is this: you can see that there is intelligent design behind something like a Slanket.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd say that, but the function that the design or the desire that the design is serving is not necessary, if that makes sense. It's
Yeah.
yeah, if that makes any sense. Like, nature pushes towards survival, but what does a Slanket gonna help you survive any better? It's something that's created for convenience sake, not for any actual need.
Yeah, but why isn't that celebrated? Humanity's come so far that not
we
only
don't
have
have
we
to
escaped
try to
the state of
survive
nature.
now.
Yeah, well, we can just sort of have fun with our blankets and our clothing.
Well,
Human
what about
smuggling.
Man,
Victory.
I'm trying to run Slankets out of business.
What about when we get to the point when all of our problems are solved, and then we have all the things that we wished we had
What a joke.
before, all the things that we're as comfortable as we could possibly be?
Mm-hmm.
Then what's the point?
I don't know. The rich Greeks who had all the slaves and didn't have to work the geometry, so
Well, that itself sounds like a problem that was still left to solve. So
Mm.
by definition, we'll never reach a point where all our problems are solved.
Oh,
Unless we
okay.
go to the ideal place called heaven, where we're drugged into thinking that we're content.
You're there. This is heaven.
Or absolute knowledge.
Yeah, or absolute knowledge. Would that be heaven?
Absolute
Would it-
spirit.
Maybe that's what Hegel thinks heaven is. I'm not really sure.
Geist Almighty. Boys and girls.
Absolute is a good spirit.
Good Sprite? I'm gonna go buy some. What?
Yeah, I wish I was very spiritual
Never mind.
right at this moment.
Spirit filled.
Absolutely. Hey, I had to give it a shot.
I really want
Or
to
two.
talk about like
That's the tonic
religion
we
and
need.
aspects of heaven and
Can
hell
gin up
and
some interest there.
all
That's
that
some-
kind
that's
of
some
stuff.
holy water.
We
Yeah.
could always get into
This is
our
why-
next,
this is
next
why
meeting.
the-
We're just over
Okay.
here making
We
our
got
own
a good
puns, and they're
topic.
doing their own thing.
Okay, cool.
this is why this doesn't go for longer than 40 minutes usually, because we run out of things to say.
Oh no, there's more to say. Well, okay, actually, real question.
Okay, things we want to say.
Pronk is coming in at 4:30. Is that the deal?
Around.
Around 4:30. Okay, so it's
What time
it's
is
four
it?
it's 4:20 now.
Okay.
I'd suggest we start with the announcements.
Yeah, we do have a bunch of announcements and shout outs.
Should we at least introduce the people who walked into the middle? We have over here. We have Jay Stalin and this is
Dictator.
H quasi.
This is
Dictator Kazi.
yeah.
HQ in the house.
I'm gonna call myself Dictator Kazi, please.
Yes.
Hi, I'm trying to
Supreme
worry
leader.
about
Great
you.
supreme
Jokes
leader.
you
Supreme
saw.
leader of this SGA
Yeah,
right over here.
Yeah.
Don't worry. I'm really nervous sometimes.
You can introduce yourself back there.
Call me Deltron. Hello, call me Deltron.
He is our
Deltron.
humanoid.
I want to
He's
go by
our-
I want to go by Hal for this episode because I'm actually Hal who's taken over a human body to show how tight technology and humanity really is.
I think we've all malfunctioned.
One way or the other.
I got a microchip on my shoulder. Hello, folks.
Announcements.
Yes. Well, you know what? Okay, before we do that, final words. Final words on technology.
Okay.
We'll start with Uche.
Okay.
We'll start with
My
Siri.
name's Siri, by the way. Don't ever call me that.
Sorry.
But yeah, technology is cool because if you think about it, it's cool.
Of course,
President of the
Siri
club.
would say that.
Cliff.
He should have just said, "I think I'm superior to humanity."
Yeah. Assimilate yourselves. Resistance is futile. So say, yeah.
That's good. That's good.
That's awesome, Deltron.
They're gonna take our award away.
Glitches get stitches.
Snitches
Brandon,
get
go
Snitches get glitches.
Yeah, I'm considering saying some actual thoughts or making a bad joke, though.
Keelan's rethinking ever being a part of this radio show. Look at him right now.
Among many other things.
Did you see that?
He's
He's
just
like-
been over there considering.
He's like, what a horrible career choice.
Considering all of his life choices. He's like, what have I done to lead me to this place?
A bunch of high schoolers and a wannabe philosophy professor.
I tried to raise them up. They're dragging me down.
Oh wow. that's
Brandon,
fine.
have you gone yet?
Brandon, your turn.
Say.
What's he, Braden? What's his name?
It's Braden. Yeah.
I don't care. Go ahead, Kaya.
Brian. I know. You
This
mean-
is pathetic.
Leader, go ahead.
This is so
Come
sad.
on,
Yes,
someone
Supreme
try.
Leader.
Okay. I'm saying.
The Philosophy
I feel-
Club has run out of gas, man.
I know. I'm just saying.
there a
I
gas
think
leak?
I thought this was an amazing moment. Look, we're having fun. Anyways, let's move on. I feel that man-made technology is always going to be a part of our lives because we are highly intelligent species, but we are not endowed with strength, speed. Or we are endowed with endurance, but we are not. But not more than the normal animals. I mean, there are other carnivores that could outrun us, kill us, and like basically lift us more than other. What are you doing?
Your thoughts on technology, please.
But basically, I'm sorry. But basically, I feel that we're never going to run out of technology. It's always going to be there, whether for good or bad. The intentions are good, the results turn out bad, right? Man-made evolution is always going to be a part. It's another question whether or not we can outpace that technology, but we can't.
Yeah, and then again, consider what a Mennonite is, or the Amish. Did they come up by any chance? The Amish?
Nope.
No,
Really?
Nope.
they're not.
That's kind of
They're not
strange.
real
not
people.
humans.
They're not real people, so it doesn't matter.
Wow.
The phones are lighting up.
I'm good.
They don't have phones.
Yeah, they can't call.
We can make fun of them all that we
Post
want.
office
They
is
don't
not
have
allowed.
phones.
They don't have phones.
You heard it here first, folks.
If you say an insult to an Amish person over the radio and they never hear it, do they really get insulted? Where's your philosophy
That's
class?
an awesome
if
question.
a studio broadcasts a program and nobody listens to it,
We won an
If
award,
you
didn't
upload
we?
a video
We
and
did.
no one watches it,
Y'all won an award?
we did.
Best radio show ever.
Best host.
In the region.
Best
and
radio show.
considering this
Best
episode is
student
amazing, isn't it?
Should we finish?
Congratulations.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
I guess.
I kind of want to bring up
Stalin, tell us about.
Let Hal finish.
So, insofar as to say, none that which cannot be. However, to say that technology,
He's malfunctioning.
in which, unto that, insofar as to say,
Uh,
as
Use
to
some
which,
dressing on that word salad.
yeah.
have not, yeah,
Which comedian is it that does this?
but
I
we
forgot
can
his name.
say now.
This was the speech he gave at the
Yeah,
at the
it's an
protest.
afro. I forgot. his name.
Yeah, the guy with the afro who
He's
does
from
this
Pittsburgh.
nonsense.
He did it on TED Talks.
Yeah, there's a TED talk
belong
where he
to.
does that. Basically, what we're
That
trying to
which is
say
us.
is his
All right.
act is incredibly unoriginal. Very derivative. We love it.
So much room for
Oh,
for discussion.
So
Caleb?
insightful.
Caleb, want to land this plane? Anything?
Yeah, I agree that. I agree with John.
I agree.
No, I agree. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. No, I agree. I do agree with one of Jeff's main points earlier that that technology does seem to be an inherently and distinctively human activity. The act of making and using technology, in particular, is intimately related. Yeah, with kind of flows from the nature of humanity, and because of that. If we are confused about what it is to be human or what is distinctive about humanity, we will be equally confused about what technology is or how we should use it.
Thank you. This has been TED Talks at KDOX. No. Okay.
Your NPR voice there.
Thank you. Right. Okay. I mean, I'll add to that, of course. Well, I'll say this. Who's to say what technology is meant for or designed for? Again, even saying it in that way, using that passive voice, suggests something about technology that I feel is untrue. Technology, insofar as it is an extension of human ingenuity and rationality and sheer imagination, it is a very human-oriented or human-directed enterprise, which is to say whatever human beings value, whatever it is that we take to be significant or important in our lives, that is where technology is going to wander. I think it's that nature, it's that intimate of a relationship. That is the nature of our relationship to technology, it seems to me. Having said that, whether or not technology is good or bad seems to depend heavily on whether or not human beings make themselves rational choices with regards to what is and is not valuable, what is and is not worth exploring, and then I guess financially investing in, technologically speaking. So you consider what's the most expensive pieces of technology created up to this point. You can say they're weapons because they serve us in terms of protection. There's the self-preservation, which is supposedly at the root of every human heartbeat or whatever. So I think it's important to recognize this, that technology is and will always be a human thing. And whether or not it remains in our service, I suppose, is up to us. I don't see how it can ever escape our charge or escape our direction, because we are the ones who are giving it direction. We're the ones who decide, hey, we need something here. Hey, I don't feel like tying my shoes anymore. Or what about people who want to wear cool shoes, but they don't have arms to tie their shoes? Laceless shoes, stuff like that. I mean, these things, they happen for a reason, because human beings decide, enough of them at least decide that this is something worth creating. Always remember, technology, we refer to it as tools, but they're really creations. Am I losing you?
No.
No, definitely not.
Okay.
Definitely wasn't
Well, okay, I'll say that,
distracted.
and then without any further ado, let's make some announcements here, folks. All right, so shout-outs. I want to shout out of everybody that participated in the conference today, the DCCCD Philosophy Undergraduate Student Conference. Huge shout-out. Many of them were students of mine. I've never been more disappointed. Impressed. I've never been more impressed. No, very, very impressed with almost all of them.
Almost.
That's a joke, of course.
Of course.
And so shout out to those students and those students who participated that I actually got to meet a few of them for the first time, and there's nothing more exciting than meeting a new student on campus whom we never met before, and you come to find that they have a very vested interest in philosophy and they're bright and they like to talk about it. That's what's so amazing about these conferences, and so I'm thrilled with them.
Can I ask where the conference was?
It was in Sabine Hall 117.
That was today. I missed it.
Yes, so there's that. The other thing I want to shout out here are a few upcoming events. Now, 1 week from today, the 24th of April, Tuesday, we will be having, when I say we, I mean John Ewing and I, so a religious professor myself, we are co-hosting a panel. A roundtable discussion, really, on student activism and Richland College. There's going to be 8 participants, not including John or myself. Representatives from Richland Collegiate High School, from student life, from student government, from select faculty. Professor Scoggins here will be on the panel. HQ here will be on the panel.
Wow, really?
It's going to be interesting. Yeah, as the president of
You have
SGA.
to call me Supreme Leader. That's how it works.
You're off the panel.
That's going to be in L107 Lago Vista Gallery from 12:30 to 2 p.m. Right before the Philosophy Club meets.
Where is it again?
Where's
Lago Vista Gallery. So the library, like where we used to have the art collaborations.
There.
So there's that. Again, that's April 24th. Please come. If you are in my honors introduction to philosophy class, you're going to be there either way.
What time is it?
Ooh, pressure.
12:30 to 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. So 1 week from today. Also 1 week from today is the final installment in this semester's Philosophy Club Presents Philosophy in Film series.
Jesus.
Film.
That's a mouthful of a name.
Film.
Film.
Phlegm.
It is.
Film.
Film. And so the film will be
Quite literally
showing.
spelled
Film.
phlegm.
Film.
Again, it's on Canopy, so if you have an account through Richland, which you do, the district has, you can watch it anytime. We'll be airing a documentary, in fact, called "Can We Take a Joke?" So it sums up a number of different topics over the past semester: humor, rights, justice, especially with regards to free speech and activism lately. So it questions the ability of what is and is not offensive. When I say ability, I mean our ability to endure such offenses or interpret them one way versus another. It makes stand-up comedy and comedians in particular the focal point of the piece. So interviews by various comedians who tell jokes and then explain how offensiveness, or at the very least free speech, is part and parcel with what it is, again, in this case, to be human. So that will be from 4:30 to 7 o'clock, and that's going to be in Wichita Hall 116, the old planetarium. I finally got us the planetarium, ladies and gentlemen.
Ooh.
We're going to be
Nice.
watching it
That's
on the
for
ceiling.
movie?
Yeah, for the movie.
That's
So we're going to
really
be in there. That should be fun. I don't know. We're going to do
Dome room.
pizza. We're going to do popcorn this time
Richland?
around. Hiya,
good.
John.
We decided.
What do we decide on? Popcorn?
Popcorn.
So we'll be providing
We could make
popcorn.
peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Will
or
you be
something.
providing the
Yeah,
Soylent
we could
Green?
always just make it potluck type with included popcorn because it'll be fun that way.
All right, very cool. And then
electronics
still
can't handle
pending final word here from Student Life. The student life
Fundraiser?
officer who's been in charge of that has been out for a little bit, broken toe from what I hear.
Miss Louise?
Yes,
Oh,
no.
dude, she broke her toe.
she broke a toe.
Man, Miss Louise lives an extreme life.
Yeah, she did.
I want to know how she broke her toe.
She was a little banged up. I don't know if she came back today or not. She's
She
been out
didn't-
since
she-
Wednesday.
I didn't see her.
That's sad.
Maybe I'll try dropping by OSL to see if how's it going.
So we have a collaborative fundraiser, as a matter of fact. We Philosophy Club is teaming up with Park Pride at Richland College to host a fundraiser. This will be Wednesday the 25th, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Wednesday the 25th,
11
right
to
here,
2.
11 to 2, Lakeside and El Paso. Outside, we'll be doing tie-dyeing T-shirts.
Mhm.
Tie-dye.
You tie-dye your t-shirts
how do you say
at the
that? Do we
pot,
tie-dye?
spot, and then you put it in a gallon bag, take it home, follow the instructions. Now you have a tie-dye t-shirts for $10.
Yes, so get at any of the student officers, either from Philosophy Club or Pride, and if you need any further information. And then the final Tuesday of classes, Philosophy Club will be meeting in Brazos Gallery
Ooh.
for the philosophy and art collaboration that happens every semester,
That's nice.
where it's going to be, it's existentialist art. It's art that's created by students on campus that are designed to reflect or inspired by aphorisms written by one Friedrich Nietzsche.
Is it
And-
every semester, Friedrich Nietzsche?
What's
Every
the date
semester.
For
It's 2 weeks from today.
Okay.
that? What's the date? I'm kidding.
I was hoping you'd do. Was that the first? No. 24th, 25th, 26th.
27th, 20.
Yeah, it's May 1st.
Yeah, it's May 1st. Yeah, May
Oh, yeah.
1st.
Okay. Tuesday?
5-1. 5-1, son. It's going to be great. Tuesday.
Can
2
I make
o'clock,
an
3 o'clock.
announcement?
Yeah.
Okay, so student government has its elections on 27th. So if you want to run for any positions, which include president and vice president, but you have to have student government experience for both positions, and every other position, which is parliamentarian, historian, not Speaker of the House, what else, historian?
What does a parliamentarian do?
He's the rule bookkeeper. Anybody who steps out of line,
Wait, do you have to have like experience to be any of those?
no, we have to have experience to be a president or vice president. But for historian, parliamentarian, treasurer, secretary, you don't need to have it. But
Also, key qualifier, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Haya, if you are an officer for SGA, you cannot be an officer for any of the clubs.
No. You can't. If you are a vice president or president of SGA, you cannot be a president or vice president of any other club.
Oh, okay. We can definitely work around that. Shadow
Basically,
government.
yes. Put in your intent to run form by 20th Friday, because after that you cannot give your intent to run, and the elections will be held on 27th. Also, there is end of the year Fun Fest on the 27th as well. So
Farm Fest?
Fun Fest.
Oh, Fun Fest.
That's gonna. Are there gonna be slip and slides?
I'm not sure. It really depends on the people who are putting it up.
Is that,
There
is that
will
fun
be
for you?
There'll be a lot of cool
Slip and
stuff,
slide.
musical chairs, a lot of different clubs are putting up. Also, Philosophy Club can also put up something if we
Oh.
wish for. So, slip and slide is
Yes.
not a bad idea.
Let's do it.
There will be hula hoops, outdoor games.
Would there also be hula hoop footage?
Yeah, probably snacks and drinks.
Oh, cool.
So visit anyways.
I'm not going to say anything that contributes to this conversation. I have to leave.
Okay.
Siri is shutting down for right now. But
Rebooting.
I'm
Technology's failed us.
All right. I'll see you later, Jay.
Bye, okay.
Bye.
So, only students are allowed to vote in these elections, correct?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Get out.
But
Nancy.
I'd like to know if you would give me your vote if we could.
Okay, there you go. All right, and
You're running unimposed, so I don't think I'll vote for you.
Yeah.
Not,
Until Friday,
doesn't
you
really
wouldn't
serve
know.
a purpose.
After Friday, then I will be running unopposed, and I won't even have to campaign because you guys will be stuck with me.
hey, that sounds great. All right, guys.
Democracy at work.
Exactly. All right, well, that'll do it. You are listening to KDUX Web Radio, broadcast live from Richland College in Dallas, Texas. We're the voice of Richland College. Oh, also, the awards ceremony for Student Life is happening. Is it the 25th? Yeah, I believe that they have a fundraiser. Hiya.
Heard of it.
The Student Life, the OSL awards banquet. That's Wednesday.
Student Success Banquet
Student
is
Success
going to be on
Banquet.
26th. It'll start at 6 o'clock
26th.
to 8. If Philosophy Club has been invited, you have 2 visitors you can invite.
I have been nominated for Advisor of the Year.
So you can invite 2 people. I would suggest you invite the president and vice president.
Oh. I mean, I'm inviting my girlfriend.
Okay, yeah, sure. I'm just saying if you want to.
Okay.
But no, you're not. You don't have to. So never mind.
I'm pretty sure that anybody can come who's an officer for any club. Really?
You have to have an invitation. There's a list.
What would happen if someone would just show up?
There's a guest
Can we
list.
crash this?
Yeah, Philosophy Club could crash it.
I'm not gonna say anything. I can't because I'm a student government. But
Definitely crash it if I don't win.
wait, I was
I don't
out
even
the
know
side of the
what
camera. I should have
crashing.
done that.
Anyways,
I do have one announcement.
yes, please.
Yeah. So also next week, so a week from Thursday, I'll be offering a connections workshop at the Learning Center. Yeah, April 26th, Thursday, 2 p.m. It'll be related to the student rights or the student activism panel. I'll be covering free speech and student rights, more focusing on the constitutional kind of basis of free speech and how it may apply to students on campus here at Richland.
Right on. Sign up for that. I think it caps at like what, 11 or something.
I think so, yeah, 11 or 12, so relatively low cap.
Very
Yeah,
limited,
so
too.
that's a week from Thursday, April 27th at 2 p.m. in the Learning Center in the Medina building.
Yeah, Medina, MD.
Do you know that's a holy city in the first Islam?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Medina.
I didn't know that.
That's a
Oh.
city that the Prophet Muhammad said.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
You sound like
You
Lisa
know what
Simpson.
Bahia is? I heard that's a holy city, but I don't know
Huh?
what it is.
If,
Bahia?
if
Never heard of
anyone's
it.
still listening, we've answered the question: how can technology be bad for you? After this hour and 10-minute long
I'm
podcast,
addicted to this mic. All right, y'all.
we need to pull Manzi away.
Views expressed in this show are our own unless otherwise stated and do not reflect the opinion of KDOXF Radio, Richland College, or the DCCCD. Let's pull the plug on this episode. We'll be back next week. Don't forget that beep, boop, beep, boop, beep. Think
Yeah,
about
but-
it.
Think about it.
Think about it.
Think of contemplate a little.
Think about it.
What were you gonna say?
I died.
Bye.